Hey guys, happy Monday. I did nothing with my hair. I did not put makeup on, and I don't care. You don't care, I don't care. How is everybody doing today? I would like to know who is still dealing with like double-digit sub-zero temperatures. We are. We're on like day 4 of it, I think. Day 3 or day 4? I don't know. It all sucks. We're over it. I think we've got another 24 hours where the wind chill is going to be like negative 35 to negative 40. And then we start coming back to normalcy. So hopefully we'll have some normal weather coming. And then by the end of next Friday, it's supposed to be like 40 and raining. So the foot of snow we got should pretty much go away, which is awesome. I'm not a winter person, so. I wanted to talk tonight about chronic illness, about managing chronic illness. And if anybody has any questions, I would love to see your questions. If there's something you want to talk to me about later on, you can always feel free to message me and we can chat that way. The best way, the fastest way to get a hold of me, honestly, is Instagram because I get notifications there. But email works too. I usually check my email like once or twice a day. So you might have to wait a little bit longer to hear back from me that way. But you know, there's so many different kinds of chronic illness. I'm not gonna like come on here and be like, oh, take these herbs, they're wonderful. And I see a lot because I watch what other herbalists are doing. We're gonna move this so all my daughter's mess stays over there. A lot of what I see other social media creators putting out there is a lot of like, oh, take this. This is just like the best thing to get your system right, like to fix everything you have going on. And herbs don't work that way. You can't just take, there is not a single one size fits all herb that is going to fix anything for anybody. Everything in herbalism is very individually catered. It has to be done with each person in mind. So, hi Georgette. It's very personal, it's very individual. So when you're dealing with a chronic illness, you have to look at, I'm going to use myself as an example because, you know, it's just what I know. And if anybody has any questions about specific examples, definitely let me know. And I've got some good resources that I'll show you in a minute, and we can look some things up together while we're here if you want. So my biggest thing is having ankylosing spondylitis. If you're new here, it is a spinal-based autoimmune disease where it can basically fuse my entire spine and it can fuse my rib cage to my spine and to my sternum. Hi, Katie. So that's what we're trying to prevent, right? We're trying to prevent fusion with that. So there's medications and there's herbs and there's lifestyle choices and there's diet controlled stuff that I will be doing, that I do, that I've been doing for quite a long time. And that helps me manage both symptoms of my disease, both worsening of inflammation, which in turn causes more symptoms, more damage, more issues. And there's also, and it also helps keep side effects at bay from medications that I do take. So, hi, Robin. So really across the board, the only herb that I would say is like, try this first to see how this works for you is stinging nettle. You guys have heard me talk about stinging nettle so many times. It is so fabulous for lowering inflammation. Pretty much anybody that has any kind of chronic illness is going to have a level of inflammation. Now, inflammation is normal in everybody's body. Even if you have someone with a pristine immune system and has zero medical history, you know, pertinent medical history, that's just, you know, something's going on, like nothing, not even allergies, like nothing. They're going to have inflammation in the body. Inflammation is normal and necessary to keep everything in your body working correctly. So inflammation is not the enemy, and all sorts of things can cause inflammation. You can have inflammation from a cold. You can have inflammation from a stomach virus. You can have inflammation, really any kind of illness. Here's a train. You can have inflammation from stress. You can have inflammation from too much sugar in your diet, from if you're gluten sensitive, you'll have inflammation. Inflammation is also a response to allergies. So if you have seasonal allergies and it's fall and you have a ragweed allergy, you're gonna have lots of inflammation running through your body. So if you are going to the doctor and getting, say, your inflammatory markers checked, and those labs would be like your CRP and your ESR. Those are the two primary ones that they do. And those proteins, or those, I'm thinking of CRP, is C-reactive protein. So those two labs will tell them basically what your inflammation level is at. And 0 is not normal. Everybody's gonna have something. But you don't want it to be like super, super high. You don't want that. You don't want it to be, let's see, the lowest one that I think I've ever had is like 24. You don't want it to be in the hundreds, or you don't want it to be really super high. Even 24 is high. So, but it's like, it's not scary high. It's just like, oh, that's a little high, but it's not scary high. And what you can do to lower inflammation herb-wise is start with stinging nettle. I use stinging nettle now. I have zero makeup on. So you guys can really see, and I'm gonna show you. You can really see, this is how bad my rosacea is right now. My rosacea is autoimmune related. This is a fun little side effect of AS. And it actually has been really subdued lately, but with this cold snap, it's starting to flare. So during flares, I take a prescription to get me out of what I call the emergency stage of a condition, and that'll help decrease the skin like blotchiness. You can see like all of this blotchiness in here. That'll help calm that down. It's a steroid cream, and it'll help it from getting like really, really inflamed, because if it gets really inflamed and the skin texture gets off, it gets painful, and I want to avoid that. So what I do is I just do that, just very little bit, once a day for probably 5 days. And then I stop it and I go back to using my rose and my nettle salve, and it's fabulous. It's wonderful. But I think it's important, and this is where you guys are always going to hear me talk, having the balance between allopathy, which is modern, Western, conventional, whatever, pick a word, medicine, and herbalism, or homeopathy, or whatever you want to follow. You have to have a balance. You have to be willing to see both sides of things, because in today's day and age, we have modern medicine is a blessing. You know, before, if you had a heart attack, you were going to die. There's not an herb on your apothecary shelf that's going to stop a heart attack. And there's not a single herb that's going to move a blockage that is going to migrate up to your brain and cause a stroke. Things, by the time they get to that level, they're emergent, and you need, excuse me, you need emergency care. You need Western medicine, or, you know, modern medicine, to help you get through the emergency part of things. And then you focus on, okay, we need to make some changes here. And this is where lifestyle is going to come in. All of the herbs that you could take, all of the herbs that you could learn about, all of the herbal remedies, medicines, whatever you want to call them, that you could create, are going to do you absolutely no good if you don't know how and when to use them properly. If you have, let's say, a super high inflammation rate, okay, and you're trying to take little bits of nettle, and you're just kind of drinking your tea once in the morning, or you're drinking your tea once at night, or even if you're drinking it 3 times a day like you should be, if you are not adjusting your diet and your lifestyle, it's going to do you no good. So there's one book I want to talk about, and I'm going to reference this. Let me show you both of them. I'm going to show you both of them. Okay, there's 2 books that I love. This one is super, super, you can see how abused this one is. I bought it used too. So it has seen some days. This is Prescription. Can you see it? Prescription of Nutritional Healing. I hope it's not backwards. It is probably, I would say, the best book in regards to helping to manage a chronic illness. If you're going to get one book, let it be this one. It's not a small book, but it's not like a sit and read through it kind of a book. Okay, there's a lot of information in there, and we'll go through something in a minute, and I'll show you how to navigate that book. The other one is Herbal Healing. And this one, the difference between them is obviously herbal healing is more focused on herbs, and it gives you, like this one, I just opened to a random page. It says bladder infections. It's talking about all the different herbs that you can use that are going to support your bladder and help clear an infection. And it talks about things that you need to be doing in your lifestyle. So it talks about things that you can do to relieve the pain associated with a bladder infection, like take a 20-minute sitz bath twice a day. And there's more things in there. And then make sure the area stays clean and dry, and make sure that your hygiene is, where it should be. Make sure you're getting up to pee every 2 to 3 hours. And talks about feminine hygiene and products during cycles. It just talks about all of these things that you can do, okay? But it doesn't talk about what prescription for nutritional healing talks about. This one, now I'm going to have to find bladder infections here. This one talks about all that stuff. But then it starts talking about, let's just go to the glossary and look it up. Duh. Okay, it talks about all of the other supplements that bladder infection 249 through 52. Let's see. Hang on, I'm gonna find it. It talks about all the things that you can take along with it to help support your system, to help get you through the hard time, and to also support you so that you're not having reoccurrences. It talks about, okay, so here for bladder infection. Oh, I'm on the wrong page. That's what happens when I talk and trying to flip at the same time. Okay, so bladder infections, it goes through everything of what it is, gives a lot more information, elaborates a lot on it. If you have chronic things, chronic inflammation in the bladder, talks about interstitial cystitis. I didn't bring my water up here. Talks about nutrients that you can take, taking garlic, taking vitamin C plus bioflavonoids. And it breaks it down. This is a really cool thing about this. And this is a nice short one that I can show you an example. So you see up here where it talks about very important and important on the next level. So it talks about the most important thing that you want to do. You want to make sure that you're doing all of those things. And then it goes down to important. So, and then it goes into all of these different things that you can take, that you can do, and there's supplements. So it's things like acetophilus, calcium and magnesium, different vitamins, minerals that you want to take. And then it gets into herbs, and it goes through all of these herbs, all these different things that you could do. So then it starts talking about your lifestyle and things that you need to avoid doing, or that you need to make sure you are doing. It talks about food that you need to make sure you're ingesting a good amount of, or that you need to stay away from. So I look at this as a more well-rounded option when you are trying to put together a protocol to help you. And I want to kind of steer away from the word protocol too, because that just kind of for me, it's up there with the word diet. It kind of suggests that it's a temporary thing. And that is not what we're achieving here. If you want to make a permanent change, then you have to make permanent changes in your life. So with my AS, I take my nettle every day, but I also take a whole bunch of other herbs that I take. It really just depends on what I have going on. I've got my herbs that I take daily because I know that in my body, there's a lot of support that I need to I need to be providing 24/7. I need to make sure these herbs are staying in my system, because the thing about herbs is they're not working if they're not actively in your system. So you need to keep them in your body. So certain herbs I have in me all the time. I make sure I'm using them all the time. Nettle is my biggest, okay? But there's a lot of underlying issues also. So when you have a chronic illness, you have your main thing, and then you have all of the other things that can happen because of it. And you need to be supporting those systems too. So again, using me as the example, my biggest thing is my ankylosing spondylitis. All the things that happen in me because of that all comes down to inflammation. So my chief complaint, we'll say, my biggest issue is inflammation. If the inflammation gets too high, then it starts causing palpitations in me. It starts causing my heart is just racing all the time. Palpitations, the difference between your heart racing and palpitations is you can feel your heart when it's like, racing. It just feels like it's beating too fast. Palpitations is when it's beating hard, when it's skipping beats, and it just feels like it's going to like pound out of your chest. Okay, it's beating really hard. So there's the difference between those two. And that happens, again, because my inflammation is crazy high. I will also have issues with my asthma. Now, I got diagnosed with exercise-induced asthma when I was 12. Exercise-induced asthma, no big deal. Because of the inflammation in me, it has now become severe asthma that is triggered by any and everything these days. I walked outside today with a full facial covering, with a mask, and with an N95 mask, because it's like the best one for keeping cold out and making sure that I'm not breathing in, because that cold air is like an instant trigger for my asthma. And then I had the full face mask on top of it. I wore my bibs, I wore my coat, I wore all the layers just to take the dog out and put the garbage in the cans. And I wanted to do it. My husband's telling me, no, you are not going outside. I'm like, look, I got to try. Okay. It's not that bad today. Let's just go do it. So I went outside, did those two things, and I came inside and I was on the verge of having an asthma attack just from doing those things. So the rest of the day has been supporting my breathing. I actually almost didn't come on here because I'm a little winded just talking a lot. So anyway, so I made sure I took my respiratory tincture, that I'm taking my breathe tea. I've already had 2 cups of it. I'm probably going to have 2 more. I'm taking my tincture, can be taken up to 4 times a day, that blend. So I'm doing that, and I'm using all of those supportive herbs. Not a lot of those herbs are helpful with AS, but they are helpful. It's like a side, protocol, if you will. And that is supportive of my symptoms. So if you're looking for, a way to create something that's going to help you with, I don't know, if you have rheumatoid arthritis, or if you have a seizure disorder, or if you have, Crohn's disease or something like that. There's the main things that you have to support yourself with, and then there's all the other things that you have to support too. So if you have a heart condition, someone asked me recently in a video about pulmonary hypertension. And pulmonary hypertension is often diagnosed, it's often misdiagnosed, but it's often diagnosed because of a lung problem. You're getting short of breath, you're getting super bloated, it's usually a breathing thing, but it's actually a heart problem. So if you're, or did I say that backwards? Guys, I think I just said that backwards. It is actually a lung problem, and it can affect your heart. There it is. So you end up going into heart failure. So it's like a heart-lung thing, but you have to really support your lungs. And a lot of the medications are geared towards heart pressures and supporting your lungs. And there's so many numbers and everything, and I don't know everything about it. I know about this much about it. But they were asking me this question, like, what can I take? Well, there's so many different things, because you're looking at your heart, you're looking at your lungs. The medications that go along with that are insane, and there can be a lot of different medications depending on what your treatment is with your cardiologist and with your pulmonologist. It's just different, and it's individual. So I could never just say, and nobody should ever just say, this is what you should be taking if you have asthma. That's not a one size fits all. Everybody's asthma affects them differently. Oh, hi Taylor, yours finally loaded. Update on what? About everything we're talking about? It's everything you've ever heard me say. We're talking about how herbs can't be just a one size fits all, that things need to be individually considered for you. So if you have one medical issue, you treat, well, I can't say treat, I can't legally say treat. You support your system, your herb with herbs that would support you that way, and using your pharmaceutical medications, your prescribed medications, and together you can support your body. But then if all the other things that you're doing, very much paraphrasing here, all the other things that happen in your body, you have other symptoms of things, then you have to use different herbs. So we're just, that's paraphrasing it, but there's a lot more information. So you're gonna have to watch the playback on there. Hi, Paula, how are you? It's been so long since I've talked to you. How are you doing? And then I talked about these two books here, Prescription of Nutritional Healing, which is if you're managing a chronic condition, this is the go-to right here, this book. There's a lot of editions in this, by the way. This is the 5th edition. The newer the edition, the bigger the book I have found. This sucker's huge. So that is what, like a 2.5-inch book? It's a big book. The earlier editions, I feel like, well, I know they don't have as much in them. This definitely has a lot in there. So, okay, let me talk about this book a little bit. Does anybody have this book? Doing okay, good. I'm glad to hear it. This is, excuse me, this is one of my favorites just for information. Like I could just sit here and read a lot of this, but there it is. It starts with nutrition, diet, and wellness. So important. It's really easy, especially I feel like in just the convenience era that we are all living in right now. It is really easy to just kind of grab something and just eat it and not really consider all that's in it. And I'm going to warn you, I'm going to get a little bit off on a little bit of a tangent about whole foods here, because it's not just what you put in your mouth, but the quality of what you're eating. It makes a huge, huge difference. And this could be a whole other, I could do a whole series on this, but it's going to be a whole other thing in itself. So I'm going to try and keep this as short as I can. But I am a big, big, big fan of doing non-GMO and as much organic as possible. And there are about 1 billion and 1 studies on this. GMO things and non-GMO things. I feel like there's 3 types of people. One that think that it's just a fad, that it's just for marketing and it's just a way to, let the man make another buck. And then there's the people like me that are way over here that are saying, no, these foods, these GMO foods are very bad for you, and they are very bad for our environment, and they are very damaging, and it is damage that now really can't even be undone. And we'll talk about that in a second. And then there's people in the middle that are just kind of oblivious and are more focused on what they can afford than anything. Understandably. And I think that's where most people are at, is in that middle, especially the way the economy is right now. But the person that's over here lacks the information. The person that over here, well, I'm not gonna say anything bad because I'm in this. I'm on this side, so I don't think there's anything bad about being over here, except for the fact that it makes it really hard to wear that budget part here in the middle. Organic foods are more expensive, and they are getting harder to find, I will tell you, where it's like really true a healthy choice and not just an organic label that is just kind of skated by the skin of their teeth, and it's still not really a good whole healthy food. So if you want to purchase organic foods and healthier options, I will say if you have an Aldi by you, they have phenomenal choices that are way cheaper than anywhere else that I have shopped. Now, I live in the middle of nowhere, and we have only a handful of options across like 4 counties where we can shop. We don't have Trader Joe's, we don't have Whole Foods, we have none of that, and it would take me probably a solid hour and a half to get to one. There is, I think, a Natural Growers, whatever that is. We've got one of those an hour and a half away too, but from what I hear, the prices are so high, I'm not going to go in there either. I'm not even going to go in. So your options are to basically either pay an exorbitant amount of money for, you know, clean organic foods, grow them yourself, or you can go to farmers markets and things and purchase them from someone that does that. I will say now, I work markets, okay? I love market season. I love working. The farmers market that we do is phenomenal. I don't know of anybody doing at our market. I don't know of anybody doing this, but it is very popular. And I do know of some local that do this. If you go to a farmer's market and you see tomatoes that look perfect, they did not grow them, okay? Normal tomatoes that don't look perfect, okay? Good tomatoes that have not been sprayed, that have not been altered in some way, that are organic, that are non-GMO, those tomatoes are not going to look perfect. They're not going to look like a perfectly red, perfectly shaped tomato, no blemishes on it that you will see in a grocery store. That produce, that tomato, is virtually completely void of any kind of nutrition, especially if it's a GMO food. You need to have the nutrition in your body to be able to heal, period. And the best way for you to get that is through food. If you are taking supplement after supplement after supplement, instead of taking Celtic salt, which has like 80 some odd minerals in it, and that helps balance that where you are missing it from food. But if you're just taking supplements and not looking at your food choices, you're only getting a portion of that for two reasons. One, it's not as bioavailable in your body, which means basically if you're taking 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, you're not going to absorb that 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C. Your body can't process that all at that time. So you're not actually getting that 1,000 milligrams. And it's not like readily digestible in the form it comes a lot of the time. So there's that. Also, if you're taking vitamin C, I'm just throwing that out as an example. Let me think of a good one. Calcium. Calcium needs to be taken with vitamin D because vitamin D works in the gut to absorb calcium. So if you're just taking a calcium supplement on its own and you're not taking vitamin D, you're not absorbing your calcium. It's best if you're getting your vitamin D through the sun and you're getting it through your food. And you take your calcium that way, and if your vitamin D is adequate, you'll be absorbing your calcium. Or better yet, you're getting your calcium through your food also. If you are buying a GMO produce, a GMO meat, a GMO whatever, actually meat is a whole different topic, but let's stick to produce. If you are buying GMO produce, there's nothing healthy in that. It is completely devoid of every kind of vitamin and mineral. Like, it's so minimal. You can look it up. There's studies out there. This just popped up. I have that book, but the second edition. Okay. I wonder, is your second edition, I've never seen a second edition. Is your second edition much thinner than this one? I wonder, I would like to see a first edition to see the difference between them. But okay, back to produce. So the reason that GMO crop is going to be so, yes, okay, that's interesting, is going to be so devoid of nutrition is because of the soil. With commercial farming and all of the implements that they use to till, and all of the sprays that they use to cover the ground, which is necessary for them. It's totally necessary in that type of farming. Without it, they wouldn't be able to produce crops, and they wouldn't be able to keep them alive, to produce them. So it's just, if they just stopped what they're doing without having some kind of plan and like turning it over, it would not work. Like, they would have total failure. It's a process. So anyway, but that whole process, when you till a ground, you are breaking apart all of the tunnels and all of the sludge and all of the goodness, all of the good things that the bugs and the plants and the rain and the snow and like all of the things that go into soil that make a soil, not a dirt, a soil. There's like silkworms. Have you ever heard the more worms you have in your garden, the healthier your soil is? It's a good indicator. Those earthworms, when they go through, they're leaving their slimy trails, their silk trails behind them. and it binds all of the nutrients in the soil. And when that happens, more of this stuff, as you plant something, those bugs and those worms and things can be down deep. And when you plant something, the roots will pull it up. Okay. It's part of why also you do crop rotation is a really good thing to implement in your garden. Because if you plant tomatoes in the same spot every single year, those roots only go down to a certain amount and they pull up the same nutrients every single year. Whereas if you plant tomatoes there and then next year you plant a different type of food that is not a brassica, I have to look at my chart. Maybe green beans. No, green beans would be a feeder. Let's see. If you did potatoes, okay? If you did potatoes now, I'm not sure if you could do potatoes after. I have to look at my chart. Like there's a whole chart where you can rotate. I have never been able to memorize it, but I make sure I look at that when I'm planting my garden every year and make sure that I'm not planting crops that will pull the same nutrients out of the ground. Anyway, whole point. When you're putting the same crop into the ground year after year after year, it's pulling up the same nutrients and the soil never has a chance to like fix itself. So, in commercial farming, it's the same thing, okay? They plant one of two things in our area, corn and soybeans. Some places, corn, soybeans. So they'll do 3 years of corn, 1 year of soybeans. Then they'll do another 3 years of corn, then they'll do another year of soybeans. Some do corn all the time, some do soybeans all the time. And they have to very heavily spray. So when they're doing that, it's till, plant the same thing. Till, plant the same thing. Their plants are pulling the same exact nutrients and minerals from that ground year after year after year after year. They're not putting organic material back into the ground. They're putting anhydrous ammonia on the ground, and they'll put, if they have cattle, they'll fertilize with manure. And that's all. That's all they're doing. And it's not enough. Like they'll go through there with a manure truck to spray hundreds of acres with like 2 truckloads. That's not enough. It's not enough. And then they just let it sit, let everything dry up. And then sometimes they'll till it over. Each farmer does it a little bit different, but they're not putting anything like organic back into the soil. So when they're not putting anything back and they're pulling and pulling and pulling, where are the nutrients? The first couple harvests that they had, you'd have a more nutrient dense food. By now, there's nothing coming out of that ground. There's nothing. Everything is artificial. Everything has to be artificially fertilized. It has to be sprayed because it's artificially fertilized, because there's nothing organic in that soil anymore. And by organic, I don't mean organic label. I mean organic as in natural. There's nothing that's supposed to be there anymore. That soil has died and turned to dirt. So it has either died or because of repeated tilling, it has been washed away. It has been eroded. It's just this whole horrible cycle. And that's how we got our land. It was a commercial farm that 30 years ago, it was tilled to death. It can never be a commercial farm again. And we even have 30 years later of being in a conservation reservation program all the way in the back of our farm, we still have erosion in some sections. So it's super damaging. And then they have to come in and spray because all of those natural things in the ground, they will end up, they're gone, and there's no defense mechanism against all of the pests that are coming in. And when you plant the same thing year after year after year after year after year, you have pests that go, oh, the corn is there. All right, let's go. So now you have this influx of corn bugs, and you have this influx of Japanese beetles, or you have this influx of the ladybugs that come in, and they're not actually ladybugs, they're just another beetle, and they're a pain. And then you have, you've got so many different kinds of pests that can come in, and the more you plant the same thing, the more pest pressure you will have. So, tiny little bit of history, because I find it fascinating. After World War II, that's when all of this commercial farming stuff that we have now came to be. It was because they wanted to produce more, and they thought they could produce more food for more people at a faster rate if they did it this way. And now today, with all of that stuff that is sprayed across the whole world, especially in the States, especially in like the Corn Belt in the States. You cannot go anywhere in the entire world without having Roundup being in the rainwater. Nowhere in the entire world. There was just a documentary that was out, and I can't for the life of me think of what it was. If I can remember it, actually, I will go look for it later, and if I can find it, I will put it, actually, I can find it. It's in my email. I will put it in the description box. It's a free documentary you guys can watch. It's so informative and it's so helpful. So I would definitely suggest checking that out, but I will put it down there when we're done here. They also spray veggies to make them look homegrown. Look at their boxes and their vehicle. Look at their boxes. Buy their vehicles a lot. Buy veggies at discount retailers and markets. Yep, they do. A lot of them do. How this all pertains to herbs is if you are going to someone that says that they have medicinal herb farm, okay, like us, we have a medicinal herb farm, that you need to make sure whoever you are buying herbs from has had their soil tested, that they don't have any kind of residue above like the certain marker that they look for. They need to not have any kind of chemicals in there. And this is whether or not they're certified organic. We are not certified organic. I have zero plans to being certified organic. It would be a nice label to have for certain things, but it's so expensive and there's so many hoops you have to jump through. At this point in time, I have zero plans for it. Regenerative, by the way, is better. So, and that's a whole different thing. Like commercial is here, organic is here, regenerative is here. So regenerative is the best. Because even organics, they can spray things, but there's certain things they can spray. Like they can't spray Roundup. No Monsanto happening there. But there are several other approved organic sprays like copper. That's a big one. Do not buy organic apples in the US. And a good friend of mine who has lived in organic farming for most of her adult life told me about that one. And I had no idea. So they spray that with copper. That's a heavy metal spray. And that just gets absorbed into the plant. Anything that is sprayed on the plants, even if, the rain washes it off and it's okay, it still gets absorbed. And things like Roundup, even if you're spraying around your yard, I know a lot of people in our little town here that will spray around their house for bugs, and their garden's like right there. Roundup, when you spray it on the ground, it migrates 4 feet away. And the more you spray, the more it migrates. So my neighbors, they would spray. My kid's sandbox is right on our property line. So anytime they're out there, you guys are not allowed to be out there. You are not allowed to be out there if they're spraying. You just can't. And it's scary stuff. And then every time I see them play in the sandbox, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want them to go near it. Don't buy Bill Gates apples. No, do not. A friend of ours let 40 acres be farmed with Roundup and they can't even grow flowers in their yard anymore. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. So, okay, so back to how all of this works with herbs. All of that is going to get absorbed right into the herbs. So if you're trying to use, this medicinal thing, if you're trying to create something to, support your healing and you're spraying something around it, near it, by it, if you are buying it from an herb farm and they have a commercial farm right next door to them that sprays, don't get herbs from them. There's nothing medicinal about them at all, which is a very sad thing. And if you are growing your own herbs at home, you need to make sure the same thing, that you're not spraying anything. And also, a lot of people think that this is an organic thing, but it's not. Sevin dust is not an organic thing. It's still bad. So I got a lot of questions on Instagram the other day about something that I posted, and then people asked what I use then. What do I use for all of this? And for herbs, here's the nice thing about herbs. I'm not going to get into all the food and the gardening stuff because I have a YouTube video coming out, is it 1 week or 2 weeks, about planting a garden. And because we are creating a whole new garden, because we're moving our garden and starting from scratch for the 3rd year in a row, why not? But that is a whole different thing. So I will talk about that in that video. But for herbs, they don't have tons of pest issues. There's very few pests when it comes to herbs. Marshmallow and red raspberry leaf are the 2 that I will end up having Japanese beetles attacking. And they'll also go over to my fruit trees too. So what I spray on the fruit trees is neem oil. I don't spray anything on my raspberries or on my marshmallow. They don't heavily attack the raspberries, so most of the time I don't do anything. If I notice them bad on one plant, then I will cover them. I'll shake them off and then I'll cover them, and that will help dramatically. So I cover it with this white cloth. Basically, it still lets the sun come in. It's like imagine like a cheesecloth, except it is super small knit, and it's a lot thicker. And it lets all of the sun, it lets the rain in and everything. Everything can breathe just fine, but bugs cannot get in there. So I will do like PVC hoops, and I'll support them on either, like I just drive some rebar and I put my PVC hoops over, and then I'll put, my netting will go all down the row and it'll protect them. That's pretty much the only bug issues, pest issues that I have ever had. I've never had any root issues with anything. I have never had, I've never really had any kind of fungal or mold issues. I have never had that happen. Now, that's not to say that this year couldn't be the year that I end up having all of the problems. It totally could happen. But if that happens, I will totally make videos about it and let you guys hear all about that. But the nice thing about herbs is when you're gardening, and I'm going to talk about this more in my video, but because we're here a little bit, when you're gardening, oftentimes they talk about companion planting things to put certain herbs by it to deter the pests. Like the biggest one that I've ever heard is to put dill all around your cabbage and your cauliflower, your broccoli, all of those, because it deters cabbage loopers. Cabbage loopers have always been a major issue for me. I still can't grow broccoli to save my life. My heads of broccoli are like this big, but it could be the variety of broccoli. I don't know. I haven't played too much with it because I don't get the space that I had. I didn't have tons of space to grow broccoli, but with cabbage, I always have issues with them. So I have to like keep them netted, plant tons of dill. I still have issues with it. But if you do certain herbs with certain plants, especially if you're staggering, you're rotationally planting year after year, that is very, very helpful. A waste of 40 acres that should have went to me anyway. Oh no. No. That is awful. Yeah. So the farm that we have now, it was part of a much bigger farm, and the edge parts of it that kind of start sloping downhill are the parts that had the biggest erosion. And I don't know exactly how old our farm was, like how many generations in that it was farmed, but I know it's multi-generational. And the original farmhouse to our property is still on the street, and the same ground is still farmed, still commercially farmed. The guy sprays it, but he doesn't aerial spray. He sprays directly on. So they use tractors and they spray directly on. So no airplanes, no helicopters come in. Thank the Lord. I hope that never changes. That's about the one thing that, like the one benefit to being organic, is I could keep them away. Then they can't spray by us because of drift. But right now they're so far away. They're like 50 acres away with their little tractor that goes over, that there's zero risk of drift for us. Zero. And there's one little finger that comes out across the street, and I have never, ever seen them spray anything over there. So I don't know what they do, but I've never seen them spray a thing ever. So that's wonderful. Does anybody have any questions? I told you I was going to rabbit trail a little bit on the health of things before I get into the next section here. The next section I'm going to talk about is lifestyle, because, well, with your food, it's super important to know what you're putting into your body. Real quick, okay, with meat, if you eat meat, which I hope you do, because there's a lot of important things in the meat, especially if you have a chronic illness. The fat that is in there is super supportive to your brain, to your nervous system, to your joints, just to so many things. But what the food, if you eat meat, the food that your meat is eating is what you are eating. So if you are eating GMO fed cattle, you are eating the GMO corn. It goes into them. It becomes part of them. So it's like that whole "you are what you eat" thing. There you go. So you don't necessarily have to go the whole grass-fed thing. Like, my husband hates grass-fed meat. He thinks it tastes awful. He thinks it tastes like meat-flavored dirt. He hates it. But, ooh, Robin. Okay, hang on one second. But you could do organic beef, and then they're eating organic corn. They're eating organic grain. They're on organic grass. They're not being sprayed with anything. So that is another option too. And honestly, if you're shopping Aldi, they do have grass-fed meat that he's not, sometimes he doesn't know he's eating it. And I don't know if he can tell, but he doesn't say anything or not. But that is better than the farm that I went and got a whole bunch of grass-fed beef from. And he really didn't care for any of it. Even the steaks, like, he was, it's not good. But Aldi has some great options. Even their organics is way better priced. Their grass-fed, way better priced. In fact, the grass-fed beef that Aldi has right now, I think it's a pound, it might be a little over a pound, is about the same for one of our other regular, average priced grocery stores for the regular, like 80/20. It's good stuff. So definitely check out Aldi if you have an Aldi near you. Day 26 of COVID, I have pleurisy, and we'll find out tomorrow if I have pneumonia. Any ideas on what I should do to relieve the symptoms? Okay, so I have a COVID tea recipe, and it is under the respiratory recovery. Check out that video, Robin, because that was my COVID recovery tea recipe. That is what I took constantly. Look at I talk all about the symptoms in there. So see if those symptoms match up with what you're having. And if they don't, there's some other things, and you can get a hold of me on Instagram, and we could figure some stuff out. And I could give you some other, options you could look at too, and give you some ideas. I'm so sorry. It sucks. When we had COVID, I got pneumonia with it, and it was so bad. And honestly, the big turning point for me was steroids, and I had to fight for them. I had to really fight for them. So when I finally got them, within 24 hours, I was leaps and bounds better. So the steroids helped a ton. Taylor, where do you get your beef? I thought local beef was better. Local beef is better, but if it's eating off of GMO fields, that's what you're eating. So if I had a choice, if there was no place to get organic anything, if I couldn't get it from, let me say this, if it was a choice between getting organic meat from the store and getting local beef, like you know the areas around here, so getting something local, I would still get something local, because there are more, even though there are more chances for the spray and all the contaminants and all the GMO crap in there to be in your meat, it's going to be, there are more nutrients. It's coming straight from the farm to the butcher, and then you're picking it up from the butcher. There is much more nutrient dense meat if you buy local meat, even if it is off a GMO conventional farm, than there is in getting a grass-fed organic meat packaged from the grocery store. Okay, with local meat, if you have the option for local meat, you have to evaluate that choice for yourself. The ideal for me, oh my goodness, the ideal would be for me to find a local farm that has affordable beef that is organic. That would be my ideal. I haven't found it yet. We get our beef from a farmer that we go to church with, and my husband's super happy with the quality of, I mean, it's delicious, but I still, every single time I make it or I eat it, that's what I think of. I think of what is in this. And you totally should think of what is in my food or what is missing from my food. You should. You really should. So the best thing is for you just to grow and raise yourself, but not everybody can do that. So if you have a situation, or if you can find it, go to your farmers markets, talk to people, figure out, bartering. I can't tell you how much I barter now, just being part of the market scene and everything and just being involved with it. We'll have one person that I'm like, all my tomatoes failed this year. Like my whole crop just failed. But I have a ton of this, can I swap with you? And they totally will. Where do you, okay, I just saw that. Farm milk, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Oh. Okay, maybe your comments. Man, the comments are weird tonight. It's not you guys, it's just YouTube. Grass-fed cow milk is weird also. And then it says farm milk, but your farm milk, went through first before your other one. I have heard that. I've never had grass-fed, like raw grass-fed cow milk before. But I have heard that. I've heard that it tastes kind of off is what I've heard. The one person was really funny, was talking about, I drank this for over a month thinking that I was drinking bad milk, but I never got sick, so I figured it was fine. I realized that it was grass-fed. Yeah, it was funny. Anyway, so it had to be there kind of a thing. So yeah, okay, so let's talk about, and if you have any questions while I'm talking, just pop them in there. Let's talk about lifestyle. So sleep, most important thing. When you are trying to manage a chronic illness, your sleep is absolutely mandatory. Don't do what I do, okay? And stay up too late and sacrifice your sleep because you're missing out on time where you can be healing, okay? Sleep is incredibly important. Now I say don't do what I do because there's 2 nights a week that are my work nights, Monday night and Wednesday night. So my husband handles like all of the kids stuff, like gets everything taken care of, and I can just work and I can knock things out. I often make it like a 6 to 8 hour night. So I will make everybody dinner, and then when everybody's done eating at about 6 o'clock, then add 6 to 8 hours to that, and that's how long I'm working. So sometimes it's a live, sometimes I've got a meeting, sometimes I'm just typing or creating things, editing things, like doing whatever I gotta do. But that sacrifices sleep. So if I do that for too many days in a row, so if I'm up late Monday and up late Tuesday and up late Wednesday, by Thursday, I feel like I'm getting sick. I feel very fluish. So that's just me basically completely depleting what little reserves that I have, and that's going to make me flare. So if you have some kind of chronic illness, if you are sleep deprived, it is going to cause you to flare. Just because it's local doesn't mean it's better. Well, I guess it depends where you're local at. Here, I would prefer local. I would prefer local to anything that's in a store. And that is because I don't know where the stuff in the store is coming from. And with everything that has changed now recently, and everything that is passing to where things aren't even going to be marked correctly or clearly, I should say, because I guess technically it is correct because it's legal for them to pass things that are not meat off as meat. All of that lab grown stuff, I'm going to start a whole different thing. All of the lab grown stuff that is coming out now. I don't know if you guys have heard, but I have been starting to see, and I have not like really dug into it because it stresses me out. We either hunt it ourselves, we grow it ourselves, we raise it ourselves, or we buy it from a farmer, or we get it from a farmer. I don't want to purchase anything in a store because I no longer trust anything that's coming out of the stores. So the produce is still like, I don't like when I have to buy produce either. I would really love to not have to go to the grocery store at all. I would like to purchase from Azure, and there's some things from Costco, and that's like the ideal. I would love to do that, and we can produce or barter back and forth for anything else that we need. I would love that. We have come close to that in previous years, but we've never been able to totally do it. That just takes so many resources and so much time and energy and effort. And at this stage, we're just not there yet. And if we never get there, we never get there. But all anybody can do anymore is do the best they can. I think it's important to not get stressed out to the point of like you're not doing enough, because nobody can do it all. Like nobody can be 100% self-sufficient. It's just not possible with the way our world is. You have to have other people in your circle that can do the things that you can't. Nobody knows everything and can do everything. So the things that you have your strengths in, do those, really perfect those, become a master at them. And the things that you are weaker in, somebody else will have. Somebody else will be stronger. So like I have, just within our family, I have more of the medical knowledge. I have the gardening capabilities. I can preserve. I do not want to hunt. I do not want to. I cannot physically sit in a blind or go out and walk miles and miles. My body will not do that. I can't handle, especially in the cold. I cannot handle that. My husband will go out and he will do that. But he is not allowed near my garden because he will kill things, especially with lawnmowers. So, he has one strength that he's really good at, and I have one strength that I'm really good at. And that goes in the community too. Like I said, with the farmers markets, there's things that I can provide for people and things that they will provide for me in return. There's one thing that I was thinking when I was talking about farmers markets, and I wanted to mention this too, because we did kind of touch on it here when we talked about it with the produce and looking at produce and quality things at a farmer's market that are actually farm grown versus commercially produced and bought from a store and then made to look like they are homegrown. It's the same for herbs. Okay. I'm going to say that. How am I going to say this without saying it? Be careful when you are at markets, when you see somebody pushing herbs, especially one specific kind of herb. Popular herbs. It's the same thing like what I was talking about here. If somebody is saying, oh, this is great for anytime you're sick, just take this and it'll help kick it. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know their product. And it is very important to know your product. So if you are looking at an herb farmer, if you are at a farmer's market and you are talking to someone about herbs, ask them a million questions. I love when people come and talk to me and stand there with me for an hour and chat. Like, I love that because I want people to be as educated as possible, and I want them to know that I know what I'm talking about. I want them to trust me, and I want them to feel confident and capable. So that is super, super important to me. Not just at the market, but just here and like in our farm, locally, online, all of it is very important to me. If you cannot, or if the person that you're buying from cannot do that, you need to go somewhere else. Don't just buy something because, you're wanting, you don't want to make them feel bad or anything. Like, find a way to gracefully bow out. I mean, people still do it to me too. Like, they'll be like, oh, and they'll sit in there talk to me, and then they'll be like, oh, $10 for a little bottle, and they don't want to spend $10 on a 2-ounce bottle. Fine, no problem. So then they'll just be like, all right, I'm going to swing back around, and then they don't show up. It's totally fine. I gave you some education. That's great. And any good farmer's market person is going to be like, sure, no problem. We'll be here, whatever. Don't feel pressured. Don't feel like it's necessary. Back to don't buy any Bill Gates food. We are able to barter here some, and I love that relationship. It is a fabulous relationship to have. Absolutely. Like, you can't beat it. And you know what? You can totally find it wherever you live too. You can find it urban. You can find it rural. You can find them anywhere. I had a beekeeper at a farmer's market tell me local honey within X amount of miles for allergies was a myth, and I walked off. Good, because That's not true. We currently do not have bees, but as a beekeeper, yeah, I'm glad you walked off. Community. Yes, Paula. Absolutely. Here in Michigan, farmers markets are a high school clique, not a community for learning. It's a business atmosphere, not fun or helpful. That is a shame. That is a shame. I would challenge that I would really wonder if they're actually farmers and wonder if they're actually producing anything. That is what that makes me think. Like maybe they're not actually growing and they're not actually producing, but they're a third party. It's not coming directly from their farm, because those people, any farmer that spends so many hours growing and cultivating and harvesting, and then, especially if they bring their kids to the market, okay, and spending all of that time, like getting everybody ready and making yourself presentable and, coming off your farm to sit and talk about your product and to show off your work. I don't know a whole lot of farmers that will not geek out at, you want to talk to me about my trade, about my craft, about my art, because yeah, that's how you feel about it. I don't know anybody that wouldn't want to do that. So I would wonder. That would make me wonder. That really sucks. Can you go farther out into, like, I don't know if you're super rural or if you're urban or, a mix in between, but can you go farther out and like find another area? And I don't know where in Michigan you are, but I have a couple of friends in Michigan. I can ask. Actually, our old pastor moved up to Michigan. That's where they were from. I wonder if they have. So I know some people in some areas in Michigan. If you message me with what area you are in, I could see if anybody has any kind of connection to a decent farmer's market. Okay, so back to real quick. Ooh, it's already after 8. Back to real quick the lifestyle stuff. Make sure you're moving. Make sure you're moving. It's really hard when you're flaring and when you're chronic and when you have so many issues going on, whatever it is. It's really easy just to be like, okay, I need to rest. But there is a balance between pushing yourself to where you are still going to be active and end up being like, I don't want to say lazy, but like, because it's not what this is. That is not what lazy is. It's you're resting too much, basically. You will atrophy your muscles, and that's not just your muscles. It's not just, your muscles. It's not just your arms and your legs and your stomach. It's your heart. You need to keep yourself conditioned. And however you do that, like I do it primarily by gardening, because I can't walk forever. I can't run because my hips and my back will very loudly and quickly tell me it's not happening. But I garden and I make sure I'm moving a lot, and I swim with my kids. So like there's things that you can do it. Find what works for you. You have to have a balance between, healthy movement, healthy sleep, healthy food, and then your medications and your herbs. You have to have a balance. Like if you're just going, oh, I'm going to take the meds, I'm going to take the herbs, but I'm not going to get adequate sleep and I'm going to eat whatever I can, and we're just going to call it good and see what it can do. It's not going to do anything for you. Herbalism is a whole big picture. It's not just, a lot of people will talk to me about like, oh, I tried this and it didn't work. I tried this, it didn't work. This didn't work. But are you really changing everything you need to? It's a big picture. You are one big picture. You need to treat the whole person, not just a symptom of the person. And if you're doing that, you might as well be in Western medicine, like firmly into Western medicine, because that is the whole belief and principle behind modern medicine, is treat the symptoms, not the root cause. And the root cause has to do with your diet. It has to do with your lifestyle, like how you are living in your day-to-day. It has to do with your diet. So you have to look at the big picture. Agree. We had a lady selling Aldi eggs when they were 80 cents a dozen as her farm eggs for $3 a dozen. And when we called it out to the farmer's market master, she ignored it. Well, we have an egg license, and here in Illinois, that would get you shut down fast, and that would get the whole market shut down fast. So the next time that happens, you go talk to your market coordinator and you tell her, so what are they called? The guy that did our egg license. Just look up in your state egg licensing, like getting a license to sell eggs. And there will be all of the information will pop right up. And you just kind of flash that name. Be like, so-and-so, I know the law is, familiarize yourself with the local law, and you go tell them that, and you go, that is not legal. And in Illinois, you cannot sell your eggs off farm without an egg license. Now, once you have an egg license, you can sell to anybody and their mother. It doesn't matter. I can go anywhere in Illinois. I am way up in the far northwest corner of Illinois. I can go sell to the last city before you hit Kentucky. I can go anywhere I want. As long as I have my egg license and everything is labeled on the box correctly. If you do not have that egg license, you can come to my farm and pick up the eggs, but they can't be washed. If I sell off farm, they have to be washed and refrigerated. So also, if she's not keeping them refrigerated with either dry ice or lots of cooler packs or a refrigerator, that's also really bad. She's going to make somebody sick, and that can make the entire market lose their license. Okay, can you take turmeric with biologics? I do. I can talk to you about what turmeric you want to take. There are several different turmerics out there. You need to make sure you are taking a turmeric with curcumin and black pepper. So remember we talked earlier about vitamin D and calcium? Same thing. Black pepper is what helps you absorb the turmeric and the curcumin. So that's important. If you're just taking a generic turmeric, it's not going to do a whole lot for you. I take one, I can't remember the brand. I'll look up the brand. I'll put that in the description box later too. So what am I doing? I'm putting that in there. I'll go back and figure out what else I was going to put down in there. But the brand that I take twice a day. I take once in the morning, once at night. And I've noticed a difference. It's not a drastic difference, but I have noticed a difference. In this book also, there's a lot of information on asthma. There's fabulous information on asthma. And I don't know why I didn't really focus on it earlier, but I went back and I know I had read through it, but I didn't really pay attention to it. When I take magnesium, which I take daily, I take magnesium glycinate because that's better for certain things. So I kind of lump that together as good for the lungs too. Totally my fault because I didn't do my deeper dive that I normally do. Magnesium calms smooth muscle, and smooth muscle is the type of muscle that you have around your lungs. So I'm just taking that. And then I went in there and I realized that it's magnesium sulfate that is the best for your lungs. So now I will be going to buy some magnesium sulfate. When I get supplements, the first place I go is not Amazon unless I know there's something tried and true or it's something that has been suggested to me directly from somebody that I trust. But the magnesium sulfate that I'm going to go to my local health and nutrition place, and I am going to talk to them about it and get the right kind of brand. I will try it through them first, which is almost twice the amount of money, and then I will purchase it on Amazon if it's the brand that I like. So I will get a very small amount of it from them, and then I will purchase it off of Amazon. That's what I do. Because I don't just want to be going through stuff that you buy off of Amazon. I want to make sure that I've got a good quality product, which are not cheap. But I will tell you, putting money into supplements to help support your system so that you don't ever need the ridiculous amounts of medication saves you money in the long run. So that's what I do with that. That if I could keep myself off the prednisone, then I would rather take more supplements because prednisone, long-term prednisone use is going to give me osteoporosis. It's going to cause so much bone and joint deterioration. It's going to tank my adrenal glands. It could give you Cushing's disease. It could give you heart problems. It could give you kidney problems, like so many issues. So turmeric, or I'm looking at turmeric. Prednisone is like a love-hate relationship. But if I can take a high-quality turmeric, oh, that's interesting, Taylor, that works like that for you. I don't have that issue. I don't have that experience. It does nothing for me like that. But that's awesome that that works for you. Anyway, I'd rather take the turmeric that is going to cost me more and keep myself off of the prednisone. That's what I use it for. I've seen a huge push in my IG feed of people taking desiccated liver. Any thoughts on that? I think that getting something directly from the animal is always better. Like what I was saying earlier, I think that if you're going to take it, if you're going to be eating liver, eat it from the animal directly. Like when we harvest a deer, if we can keep the liver, sometimes my husband will make a liver shot, and then when the liver gets hit, it like, you can't really do that. You can't really use it at that point. Maybe parts of it, but it usually just kind of like almost liquefies. It like turns into a gel. It's just, I'm getting too graphic, sorry, for those that don't hunt. But taking desiccated liver, taking any kind of organ supplements, just do your research on the company, because I know there are some good companies out there and they freeze dry, which locks everything in. Dehydrating, you lose a drastic amount of nutrients in when it comes to a lot of different things. Freeze drying is like the gold standard. So if you have a company that you're looking at and they freeze dry their organ meats and then they put it into pill form, that I would take. I've seen, okay, we saw that. Will magnesium sulfate help pleurisy? So pleurisy is that pain, you know what it is, but for other people, pleurisy is incredibly painful. It is like this pain in your lungs. It can, depending on where it's at, it can make you feel like you're having a heart attack. It can be caused by a lot of different things. Pleurisy can be caused from having COVID, from having a pneumonia, from having a bronchitis, from having asthma. It's basically pain in the lungs is what it is, and it's caused by inflammation. So Robin, if you work on getting your inflammation down, that's not going to hurt you at all. And magnesium sulfate will help calm the smooth muscles, help relax the smooth muscles around your lungs. And as long as you don't have any contraindications, if it were me, I would try. But talk to your doctor first, okay? So because I don't know what's going on technically I cannot tell you exactly here, but just talk to your doctor and just give them a call tomorrow and just be like, I'm thinking of taking some magnesium sulfate because I want to relax, my lungs a little bit and help me get some better air moving here. Can I go ahead and take that? You can just get it over the counter, just get, a good quality one. And which is just don't go to Walmart and get the cheapest one. Pretty much. Okay, look for a good quality magnesium sulfate. And hopefully that'll help you. So, all right, guys, it is 8:18 here, and I need to go downstairs so that my daughter can come up here and go to bed. Just like how we always end the lives here. My daughter's got to go to sleep. So if you guys have any other questions or concerns about something, hey, even if you don't agree with something and you want to talk to me more about it, I am all up for, a good debate. I am all up for more conversation about things. Just because you don't agree does not mean like I am not the end all be all in anything. So like we were talking about the desiccated liver, that's my take on it. I know Desiree from Mountain Dog, I always screw up the name of her channel, of her IG handle. Is it Mountain Dog Farm? I can't remember, but she is constantly talking about taking desiccated liver, constantly talking about it. It's all over the place. Yes, I have seen it too, Deidre. But I see her the most talking about it, and she takes it all the time. She gives it to her kids. I think she's got 2 little girls, and she's pregnant with her 3rd, and she's taking it through pregnancy and everything. And she talks a lot about that. But I know my experience and I know my research and I know like my education on things, and I share my deep dives. And if I'm not like super confident and really like, you know, hey, this is the way this is, I'm not going to tell it to you like that. I'm going to say, this is what I think, but you know, I'm not the expert here. Here's a place where you could go to talk to. You know, I do know that Desiree will talk to you more about the details of things if you message her. She's pretty available from what I understand. I haven't talked to her too much, but from what I understand, like she's pretty stinking down to earth, and like she'll answer questions for you. So, and I know she's got like highlights and reels and things on this stuff too. So lots of information out there that she has. She's really good at sharing the details of things too. So anyway, thank you guys so much for hanging out. Ranch, Mountain Dog Ranch. Yes, Taylor, of course you would know. Thank you. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, guys. Tomorrow I have, as long as internet holds out, and the cold has not bothered internet too much, but we have had some times where I'm like, where's the internet? I need the internet. We will have a video up tomorrow about managing asthma. Robin, make sure you watch this video tomorrow, okay? It is on a whole bunch of herbs that we use to manage breathing issues, and asthma can be used for a number of respiratory conditions. It's a good place to start. So lots of good info there. And I think that's it. I feel like, oh, that's what else I was going to say. If you guys are interested in the Herbal Winter Workshops, the salve making one just went out today, and it was so much fun to make it. I made 3 different salves in there. One for, what did I call them? One is a facial one. One is like a soother, skin soother. And one is a skin healer, but I can't technically use the word heal in it. So it's good for pretty much any kind of skin injury, skin trauma, things like that. So, and bone and joint stuff. So if you're interested in that, check it out. They're still $10. I'm keeping them super cheap. So $10 workshops. Every other workshop that we did in December, still available. Everything is going to be available through February 29th. If you purchase a workshop, you have it. So you keep access to it, and you could do it later, even in the spring or summer. But I will not be doing lives past the last February, or the last Friday of February. So if you purchase any workshop at all, even if it was the first one in December and you don't want to purchase another one, you still get the link for the private live that we're going to do, where we can talk about all the details and answer any questions that you guys have. And I'm like personally there for you guys. So if you're interested in those, I will stick the link down in the description box here in a few minutes. So that'll be there. It's just, you just go into the Herbal Winter Workshop section in the shop section of our website, and it should pop right up and you can see all of those things. And then the one that's coming out next Monday is our herbal first aid kits. And that one's really exciting. I'm so excited about that. I'm going to film it. I'm going to film part of it tomorrow and then part of it Wednesday. And it's really exciting. That one's going to be super awesome too. So if you're interested in like the first aid preparedness and the herbal side of it and all of the things that you can put together, definitely check that one out. So, and then the last thing I have here to drop, you know, all the shameless plugs here, is I am going to be a guest speaker at the Women Who Prep conference in April. I am talking about making a, what was my topic? I can't remember my topic. My topic was putting together building a home apothecary is what it was. But it's going to have way more detail and way more instruction than anything that I have put out here. So it's going to be a very deep dive, and it's going to give all of the details of everything that I do. If you are into preparedness, there is going to be such an amazing lineup. There's things for urban preppers. There's things for like people who want to grow food in super tiny spaces, like micro homesteading. There's going to be like prepping with kids, practical preparedness, off-grid living. There's so much, and it's all online. It's all virtual. And I know a lot of the ladies, it's just for women. I know a lot of the ladies that are going to be in it. And my good friend Allison's putting the whole thing together, and it's just, the lineup is incredible. So it's going to be super exciting. So I will be doing a bunch more information coming. I might possibly be doing a giveaway for it too. If you want to snag a ticket, that's something to be, that's an option too. So anyway, I think we're gonna do this. The plan was to do it. I have to see if it's still available because I've kind of been dragging my feet on that one. So, but if I can't do one, I will share the information to the people that are doing them when the time comes. So there's that. So that's it. Okay, so thanks again for hanging out with you guys. I hope you guys have a really great night, and we'll see you later. Bye.